So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions are getting into their second week of OTAs, and that means it's our second chance to really view this team. It's our second chance to get to evaluate the free agents, evaluate the rookies, and see how far this team has come since 2022 and how close they are to being ready for the 2023 NFL season. And today, I wanted to talk about the second week of OTAs, talk about the preview, talk about what we should expect to see from this team, what we should expect to see from these players, what players we should be keeping an eye on, and of course, just kind of give an overall preview of what to watch out for as the offseason continues and the preseason approaches. So, with that being said, today we're going to take a look at the Detroit Lions Week 2 OTA preview. Now, we're going to start off with the injury updates. As the Detroit Lions have gone through the first week of OTAs, they have gone through a couple of team practices and unfortunately have suffered a few injuries early in the process. Both David Montgomery and Malcolm Rodriguez were absent at Wednesday's practice for the first day of the second week of OTAs, as well as not being expected to return today or tomorrow. Now, last week, David Montgomery and Malcolm Rodriguez both left the final day of training early with an undisclosed injury. Malcolm Rodriguez was not really talked about a whole lot. We don't know exactly what's wrong. And David Montgomery is a player that did hurt his left leg, but we don't know exactly whether it was a knee injury, an ankle injury, a calf injury, or whether it was just a precautionary thing to make sure he didn't injure anything further. However, what we do know is that neither one of them was spotted at Wednesday's practice, and neither one was really seen doing a whole lot other than working with trainers on the sideline. Now, on the flip side of that, both Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch, two rookies that are expected to have big roles this year on the 2023 Detroit Lions defense, on the Detroit Lions 2023 team, have been more healthy, right? Jahmyr Gibbs missed the first couple of days of rookie training camp, and I believe even missed the first days of OTAs, but has gotten healthy, has healed that ankle up a little bit, and has looked really good over the first couple of days of OTAs. And Brian Branch, a player that didn't get to participate in the first week of OTAs because of an undisclosed injury, has been on the field with the second team defense and has been playing really well over the last couple of days, especially yesterday, making his impact felt on the second string defense. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is a player that has been incredibly impressive so far at OTAs. Through the first week and the first day of week 2, he has taken a lot of first-team reps and has actually been one of the few rookies and few young players to actually do so. Once getting on the field, he showed his smooth rushing ability and drills, showed his ability to change direction effortlessly and just look like an effortless running back in the NFL. He's worked his way from the second string to the first string and gotten a lot of reps with Jared Goff behind the first-team offensive line and looked really good. It showed an explosive element to the rushing attack as well as creating a lot of separation on wheel routes and angle routes and really being utilized like a slot wide receiver and running back combo and excelling at both. Him and Jared Goff do have a little bit of chemistry to develop. It was said that he and Jared Goff just weren't on the same page with a lot of the deep wheel routes and weren't really on the same page with a lot of the quick game stuff quite yet, which again just has to do with a lot of chemistry, which is going to be built over OTAs. But as an individual, Jahmyr Gibbs is showing exactly why he was the 12th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, speaking of Alabama playmakers and speedster wide receivers, Jameson Williams has been the talk of the town in Detroit for quite a while, right? There was a lot of news and rumors last week that he was struggling at OTAs with his hands. He struggled with some drops, dropped a couple of deep post routes, and dropped a couple of balls on camera as you know, the Lions like to put out clips, and one of those clips did include Jameson Williams dropping a football in the middle of one of his reps. So he got a lot of criticism from it, saying, oh, you know, he's not catching the football very well. He's not being a reliable wide receiver. But he did come back out on Wednesday practice and have a phenomenal highlight reel catch, showed quick hands, the ability to bring the football down, as well as a really good improved chemistry with Jared Goff. Now, it was said that after his struggles in the first week, Amon-Ra St. Brown took Jameson Williams aside on the sideline and was working with him privately to help with his hands and kind of had a talking to. And since that talk, Jameson Williams reportedly has been better, has been more secure as a wide receiver. Even though he hasn't been perfect, has been improving steadily over the last couple of days of practice and looks to be much better on Wednesday than he was even dating back to last Thursday. In just a week, he's improved his hands, he's improved his chemistry with Jared Goff, and looks like a significantly more reliable wide receiver now than he was even just a week ago. So that is really impressive to see from Jameson Williams. And I think that if Jameson Williams can become a more reliable wide receiver, the sky is absolutely the limit. If you get the football in this guy's hands, he is going to be an incredible playmaker. The only problem so far has been getting the football in his hands. Unfortunately, he suspended the first 6 games, but once he gets back, if he's a reliable wide receiver, if his hands continue to improve, he will be a dynamic threat for this Detroit Lions offense. Now, a big part of OTAs is going to be the rookies, right? It's going to see how these rookies are fitting in, where these rookies are going, and how these rookies are looking early in camp. And so far, Jahmyr Gibbs is the only player getting first-team reps, right? The 12th overall pick, running back from Alabama, has been getting a lot of reps with the first-team offensive line, is getting a lot of reps with Jared Goff throwing him the football. But he's the only rookie that's really doing so. Jack Campbell has been the starting will linebacker for the second-team defense, while Sam Laporta is the starting tight end for the second-team offense, with Broderick Martin and Brian Branch both getting snaps on the second-team defense as well. Now, Dan Campbell has a philosophy of rookies earning their time, right? He has a philosophy that Aiden Hutchinson went through, that Penei Sewell went through, that Jameson Williams is going through, that Amon-Ra St. Brown and Kirby Joseph, and every single rookie that comes through the Detroit Lions earns their spot. They start on the bottom of the barrel, they start on the bottom of the ladder, and they climb their way up through OTs, they climb their way up through training camp and preseason, and once they're ready, Dan Campbell will put them in the starting lineup and will play them. But he's not going to rush them, regardless of whether they were a third-round pick or a first-round pick, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of rookies right now. Jahmyr Gibbs has earned his way into the starting role, has earned his way into the starting spot and into the RB1 role, while Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Broderick Martin, and Brian Branch are both working their ways up at this very moment. So I did want to mention that rookies are kind of a big part of OTAs, right? It's a big part of the building process. It's a big part of moving forward as a franchise and improving from last season. And a lot of these players have big roles and big expectations for 2023. But as of right now, Jahmyr Gibbs is the only one that has a solidified starting role. Now, of course, the drafted rookies aren't the only players that you have to take a look at, as UDFAs are a massive part of OTAs, a massive part of training camp, and a massive part of roster construction, right? Guys like Jerry Jacobs, guys like Brock Wright, guys like Craig Reynolds, and so many other UDFAs have built up this roster over the last couple of years and have been standout players for a Detroit Lions team that needed playmakers at that point in time. And the Lions have a lot of UDFAs that I think can make a big impact in OTAs, and a lot of playmakers that you need to be looking out for. Brandon Joseph has been working primarily with the third and second string defenses, as well as being a primary player on special teams. Same thing with Starling Thomas IV, been an incredible special teams player so far, as well as getting a lot of second team reps. Muhammad Ibrahim has gotten a few first team reps with the absence of David Montgomery, but for the most part has been a second to third string running back. And then Dylan Drummond, the impressive wide receiver from Eastern Michigan, has made a lot of plays on the second and third string defenses. And then, of course, you have Corey Durden, who is going to be sitting behind players like Aleem McNeil and Josh Pascal and Isaiah Buggs for all those pieces in the middle, but has a good opportunity to develop and stick with the Detroit Lions as a second or third string defensive tackle. And, you know, the Lions, I think, had a really good undrafted free agency class, and they have a lot of players that have a very clear shot at making the final 53 or very easily making the practice squad. And at this point, these are the guys that you should be watching out for in week 2. Brandon Joseph, Starling Thomas IV, Muhammad Ibrahim, Dylan Drummond, and Corey Durden are all players that have a shot at making this roster and and have a shot at improving this team in 2023. Now, taking a look finally at the overall roster, right? I think one thing that we all want to see in week 2 is the offensive rhythm, right? There was reports that Jared Goff was missing some throws. There were reports that Jameson Williams was dropping passes. There were reports that the chemistry between the wide receivers and the quarterback weren't quite there. And there was a very clear lack of explosive plays, or at least consistent explosive plays down the field. These are all things that, of course, we want to see improve, right? These are all things to keep an eye on of whether Jared Goff is kind of getting back into the groove, whether Jameson Williams, his hands are improving and he's becoming a more reliable wide receiver, how the chemistry is coming along with, the rookies, with Sam Laporta, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with Jameson Williams, with Khalif Raymond, with even Josh Reynolds and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And of course, the explosive plays have been a big part of what Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell had been looking to implement, right? They want to be an explosive offense. They want to be an offense that can score in 2 or 3 plays in a single drive. And that explosiveness is going to have to come with the chemistry. Now, the offensive chemistry was a little bit off on the first couple of days of OTAs, right? Jared Goff was a little off. The routes were a little off. The hands were a little inconsistent. So improving that as OTAs and training camps go along is going to be incredibly important for how well the Detroit Lions succeed in 2023. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Those are the previews. That is kind of what to look for in week 2 of OTAs. Practice started on Wednesday. We're going to have another one today and another OTA practice tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll be back with the OTA takeaways once that is all done and completed. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you go down below and like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. And if you hit the bell notification, you will never miss a Detroit Lions upload. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.